We encourage you to hit the subscribe button right now so you can listen to more podcasts of Operation Truth. Ladies and gentlemen, we do want to hear from you, so we encourage you to email us directly at operationtruthofficial@gmail.com. I want you to know that your messages are likely to be heard, addressed, and listened to on air.
Operation Truth, the show they don't want you to see. Now, here's your host, Lou.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lou Palumbo, and my co-host, as always, is Tom Fuentes, as I mentioned consistently, so you understand Tom's background as a former assistant director of the FBI. I want to start out by saying this to you. When you get here, you're supposed to leave the place better than you found it. And I'm just curious as to how many people can really support that statement. No question, we are living in very trying times. And I don't think there's ever been a time that the importance of the truth, needs a place in the sun. I don't know how to say it to you, but we seem to have vacated this concept. I always promise you that, we're not here to tell you who to vote for. I'm not a fan of the Democrats. You're going to hear that. I'm not a fan of the Republicans. I'm a bit skeptical. I am a fan of the truth. But what I'm really a fan of, the future of my children and the young people here. I have this question that I want to just start out with because I'm listening to the former president get hammered 6 ways from Sunday, and everybody should be suspect as to the timing, independent of your politics. Try to set your politics aside. What happened to the discussion about classified information that was taken by a United States senator from a SCIF, which Tom Fuentes, you can look up one of our prior podcasts on Operation Truth, spoke quite intelligently to. He managed them. He was able to classify information. He created the entire structure under which you may take classified information, and you may not unless you're the president. What happened to this discussion about our U.S. Senator Joe Biden taking classified information? What happened to the discussion about our Vice President Joe Biden taking classified information and us finding it on almost every corner of the planet? Or Mike Pence? I see we've only narrowed it down to one person who may have been the only person who was entitled to take it. This isn't the problem. This is symptomatic of a bigger problem. We have sucked the integrity, honesty, and trustworthiness out of this government for political agenda. And I keep telling everybody this, and very few things do I say to you that I mean more sincerely. I wish you loved your children as much as you loved your politics and your agenda. I want to say something to you guys, and I don't like being political, and what I'm about to say next has nothing to do with telling you to vote for a Republican, because I'm not telling you to do that. Tragically, most of us are sitting here trying to figure out who we want to vote for. But what is irrefutable is the condition of your borders. If you don't want to take my word for it, go listen to some of the mayors in your major cities like Eric Adams. I'm hearing the number is up to 100,000 migrants in the city. They have no place to house them, and they've got to figure out how they're going to pay for them. The master plan now is to do the very same thing that he criticized Governors Abbott and DeSantis in doing, packing them up and transporting someplace else. He is openly critical with the president, or as tens, probably 50, 60 other Democrat elected officials of this administration in the border handling. Stay with the Democrats, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not telling you vote for the Republicans. Look at the condition of your major cities, and I could rattle them off for you. Start with New York, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Chicago, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Los Angeles, Portland, San Francisco, Seattle, and I probably missed a few in there, like Memphis, all being run by your Democrats. I don't know what happened to the Democrat Party. This is not the Democrat Party I remember hearing about growing up, whether it be the 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s and 90s. The cuckoo has left the clock here, guys. Look at your energy sector. As long as you don't mind the fact that the president shut down the Keystone Pipeline the first or second day into office, and you're now paying more than $2 a gallon for gas, stay with the Democrats. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I don't know who to tell you to vote for at this point. If you think you're at a 4% inflation rate, I just want to mention something to you because I have to read this to you. Eggs are up 2022, 22.6%. Cereals up 10.3%. Poultry, 15.3%. Fish, 11.9%. Dairy, 9.1%. Fruit, 7.4%. in 2023, food prices were increased by 5.8%. I know I'm stupid. I know I've got stupid stamped on my forehead, but someone please explain to me, do you see a 4% inflation rate in the things that you're buying in a supermarket or what you're putting in your gas tank? You know, the intellectual arrogance in Washington, D.C. is palpable. And the sad part of this discussion is they're all capitalizing on the fact that 99% of the Americans in this country are distracted, taking care of their families, their children, getting them educated, clothing them, feeding them, paying their overhead, rents or mortgages, paying for cars, insurance, gasoline, food. This is ridiculous, guys. But the way back is through the vote. So I ask you to separate yourself from your politics. I like two expressions. See the forest for the trees and know when to come in from the rain, guys. I don't know what happened to the Democrats. I listened to hearings where they went after another Democrat to censor him, Robert F. Kennedy. I listened to, give me a second here, Wasserman Schultz, accuse him of anti-Semitism. Really? How about Tlaib and Omar, multiple tweets? How about Geopolitical recently? I guess the Jewish entity within the Democratic Party are only concerned if it came from Robert Kennedy. Where was the outrage? Chuck Schumer's Jewish. Bernie Sanders is Jewish. Wasserman Schultz is Jewish. I wrote a list of them. Feinstein, Michael Bloomberg, Fetterman. Where was the outrage, guys? You see, the problem is we really don't want to tell you the truth. We want to tell you what we want you to believe. And the reality of the situation is we better start to embrace the truth and distance your politics, or we're going to lose your country. And not so much my demographic, my generation, but the young people here are going to get it in the BBDs. In any case, I want to move on from this rather than continue in this discussion. Tom Fuentes is with us today, as always, and Christian, based on schedule availability. I want to bring Christian right in because I want to ask him about the transition into digital currency, but more importantly, we're having people inserted with chips. And Christian's going to explain to you exactly what that will translate to. And I also want to ask Christian, and Tom will chime in on this as well, about the Chinese insinuation into our culture on a multitude of levels, not just financial. So Christian, are you with me, my friend?
I'm always with you, even in spirit.
Okay, buddy. So I want to start out, give me a little background on this transitioning into digital currency, but I really want you to tell me about what is this thing with approximately, I read 16,000 people have had chips inserted in them. Did I hear that
Actually,
right?
it's more than that, Lou. What's interesting is that was kind of a cumulative number that was initiated about probably first of this year. But our understanding now, according to some reports, up to 50,000 people in Europe alone have installed this chip under their left or right hand for commerce, right? So buying and selling, mostly for buying. And so it's gaining steam here in America. There was the initial run of around 2,000 Amazon employees were the first ones to be inserted with the chip. In fact, now it's all over Twitter here in the last couple of weeks. It shows women and men going into convenience stores, grocery stores. I haven't seen any kind of retail stores yet, but it's mostly been stores like Whole Foods, kind of grocery stores, since Amazon owns them. And our understanding is that it's growing at about 500 people a day right now in the U.S. and about 2,000 to 3,000 a day in Europe. But that's mostly in the Scandinavian countries, up north, Finland, Norway, Sweden, so forth, Belgium. And it's starting to become quite popular. It creates a convenience that way you don't have to have your wallet with you. So it basically allows you to buy based on your account balance of your bank account. So it goes either right or left hand based on your preference, whatever you're dominant in. And what's interesting, what I find to be the most interesting part of it, is how many people are embracing it as being a wonderful opportunity to have less cumulative things on you. And also, there's a company out there that has already gotten the retina scans of over 2 million US citizens for access into various things that's also going to be moved into a purchasing mechanism. So instead of having the plant or a little chip put into your skin, planted into your skin, they're talking about using now eye retina scan as another viable way to make purchases.
I'd like you to explain to the public, beyond the fact that you're going to be able to swipe your hand and buy a Coke, what the other implication is with having this chip in your hand as far as the surrender of your privacy.
Well, it's programmable. We don't know what all the consequences are because we didn't create it. But for the people who did, I can say that with some certainty, based on the scope of work and the architectural design elements of what the chip is doing currently, this thing is like a Tesla. If there's some kind of a modification or an upgrade, the chip has a programmable system that can be downloaded information that could systematically either cut it off or expand its use, limit its use into ways like it might limit you if you're not voting the right way, spending the right way, big carbon footprint. I'll give you an example. In Canada, there's a carbon tax. Listen to this. And this is where the question that you ask goes to the heart of it. What can they do? So in Canada, they got 5 carbon taxes. By the time you buy a product, there's a tax on every element or supply part, whether it's the manufacturer pays a carbon tax. It goes to a distributor. They pay the carbon tax. It goes to a wholesaler, or it goes to a retailer. And then it goes to the consumer as a sales tax on top of a carbon tax. See, if you're not buying or selling, or your carbon footprint isn't in the relationship ratio the government sets. In other words, the relationship that you have with the government is going to be determined based on how you set your limits. Are you going to set limits on your personal lifestyle? On your personal lifestyle, and then be with conforming to the government regulations? If not, they're going to tax you. Well, they can tax you through this chip by debiting your bank account. So yes, it is a very cool thing, as long as nobody tweaks, plays, or manipulates the programmable portion of this thing that is clearly defined as a new way, and maybe the only way, to buy and sell in the extreme near future. Here's a perfect example of how far it's gone. Last week, I know many of the viewers, I'm sure, already saw this. This is great. Australia made an announcement, the government, that they're going to start withdrawing cash out of the economy. Great. They withdrew the first $1 billion in cash from the economy by banks systematically taking it and not making it readily available to any bank account holders that need cash. And they're limiting how much cash now you can take out in a reasonable period of time, 1 week, 1 month, one year. And so they're trying to push more and more people to digital payment systems. So we have a coordinated effort. It has to be coordinated at the highest level, like COVID lockdowns, because there's no way one country does it, another country goes, ooh, that seems kind of interesting. Maybe we'll all try that. No, don't work that way. This thing is so well coordinated that you've got, and this goes back to another update we haven't talked about how fast central bank digital currencies are now starting to be deployed around the world. See, a year ago, there were zeros deployed. February this year, there were 3 countries. Then it became 10, 20. Now it's 30. As of August 1st, 30 countries have either fully deployed, being built, integrated into the Ripple XRP CBDC platform, or have indicated that they're moving on the platform and then further develop it in accordance with how that platform is built. So Ripple's, one of their C-level executives recently had a statement and a press conference and release. It was both. He made a statement at a press conference and then released a press release that said, quote, "We now have upwards of 30 countries, or 15% of the entire world's nations, either on or being built on the Ripple CBDC platform." That's fast. It went from 0 to 30 in less than 12 months. I didn't think that was possible. And with my software background and engineering understanding, that has to be a coordinated global effect with billions, and I mean billions of dollars, thousands, if not tens of thousands, by more like hundreds of thousands of people employed in that industry for the sole purpose of launching CBDCs, globalizing before the end of next year, which could make us a first step cashless society as soon as early 25.
So let me just ask you how that works when you become the cashless society. And so in simple terms, the government's going to mandate that you come in and you surrender your paper dollars, and they're going to give you coins or a chip. How exactly does this how is this implemented?
You're going to wake up on Monday morning and you're going to have to download here in the United States a Fed Now app. You'll download that, and that will be your new bank. That will now be the account holder of your commercial accounts, which by default is the majority of how people run their businesses and their lives through business accounts or commercial accounts. So you'll just have cash that will be rendered useless, worthless, and outlawed on a Friday night. Monday morning in your account will be individually serialized digital tokens that will replace cash, and it'll all be digital. And that's coming because we've seen video of executives at the Federal Reserve, at the OCC, and other places that have been sent, and sources have confirmed that there's a bit of a fear. What will the consumer, what will the commercial account holders realize? That they've gone from a free society, openly able to buy and sell freely and in private and in anonymity with cash, to a complete communist takeover of their payment systems.
Interesting. Tom Fuentes, you've been listening to this, and I know you've been tracking it with Christian as well as other individuals in this podcast. What's your take?
Well, I think, Lou, what they're doing is disguising tyranny and totalitarianism as efficiency. And that's what it amounts to, is basically the government being in control of you, your money, how you spend it, where you can go, what travel you can do, any of that. And at first, the selling point of this is, well, it's going to be so efficient. We'll be able to transfer this money, all over the world, or your tokens all over the world, no problem. It'll be much quicker, easier, much more efficient than what we have right now. But the price is your freedom.
In a prior conversation, of which take place often with Christian, because I'm on the learning curve with everybody. That's what I like about getting up every day. You learn something from people smarter than you are. Christian mentioned also something about like GPS location in these chips, which I wonder if people understand ultimately what that will translate to. Now, I have to be honest with you. This whole chip thing with my kids, I'm in favor of it because I like to know where they are at any given time. I don't think it would sell with them too well, but I think, Christian, what else are we surrendering here? Tom hit on some very interesting points, but you had mentioned to me about this thing being a GPS locator on you. Is that my understanding?
Yeah. So depending upon which country right now, some of the countries have location finders that are built into your phone. I mean, you already have it. Every time you have your phone with you, you already have it. So there's nothing you're going to surrender. You already gave it up every time you walk away with your phone somewhere. But the chip has different programmable features. One of them is a geolocation to make sure that you're not in places you're not supposed to be. And if they are, like in China, and you can clearly go online and see many videos where examples of citizens are being arrested for leaving what they call the 3 mile sector, which is what they're building here, the 15-minute city, Chattanooga, Tennessee, parts of Puerto Rico, parts of, I've heard New York and Arkansas, that BlackRock is building these 15-minute cities without transportation. And by having the chip in you, they can locate you. In China, they have this rule that you cannot travel. Well, technically, you can't even move from one city to the other without permission. If you try to travel outside a certain proximity where your work or home is, they can detect that, arrest you, and then they digitally will take the money out of your digital wallet. Because 26 provinces right now are exclusive to digital payment, no cash.
We're going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. I ask you to stay with us. By the way, you want to find Christian and follow up with some more interesting information. Hard asset management. I hope I said that correctly.
Yep.
is how you can find him. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I want to continue this conversation, but I want to kind of segue into an episode with China and Russia that recently took place. We'll be right back, guys. Stay with us, please.
The world is in crisis, with political unrest and financially unstable countries trying to print their way to prosperity by taking on trillions of dollars of new debt. It's incredibly concerning. That's why you need to own silver as a hedge. So call today to receive the free hard asset information kit on how easy it is to own silver. Green energy demands will possibly turbocharge silver prices to 50, 100, even 300 an ounce, according to many experts around the world. Silver is a proven hedge against inflation. Since 1971, silver has returned over 11% when averaged yearly. Silver is a proven wealth preservation for hundreds of years. Hard Asset Management is a trusted leader in precious metals and rare coins for nearly 40 years. We have the guaranteed lowest prices, fast and easy ordering, expedited shipping, with award-winning customer service available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. CST, Monday through Friday. So protect yourself from the chaos. Invest in stability with Hard Asset Management. Call now and get your free Hard Asset Management information kit on how easy it is for you to own silver. 844-426-4653. 844-426-4653.
Guys, we're back. And if you've been listening, Christian has been giving us a lot of good information on digital currency, this new practice of installing chips in human beings so we can track you and regulate and control you. Tom Fuentes gave you some concerns of his as well that relate to, I guess, tyrannical control is what it comes down to. And the really sad part of this discussion is, and I think these gentlemen will all agree with me, the vast majority of the country is too distracted to really follow what the hell is going on here. And if you're not listening to this podcast, Operation Truth, I don't know where you're getting this, because one of the other things I brought up as a concern with Christian and Tom earlier in the conversation, one of our producers, TJ Stone, was, I don't hear anything from the Republicans about this for whatever reason. I mean, if they're talking about it, it's not in these massive hearings like we're having chasing this rather deranged individual, Hunter Biden. I mean, I don't know what to say to you about him, guys. See the forest for the trees. This is not about politics, Democrats or Republicans. This is what the country's eroded into. I do want to go into this discussion about China and Russia's most recent activity off the coast of Alaska. And I want to start out with Christian first, because he brought a very interesting point up regarding what this really translates to. So Christian, give me some insight on this, and then I'm going to go to Tom Fuentes, former FBI director. I'm sure he's going to have some incredible thought process on this. Go ahead, Christian.
You're talking about the globalized, all the Chinese stuff? Because you broke up.
Well, that's a tough one. We could talk about the whole global implication, but we had this incident off the coast of Alaska.
We can go domestic or international, but let's just bring it down to macro to micro. Well, first, this unity that was shown in such great strength, and wasn't the number of ships, but when China and Russia, this is fabulous. And when you think about this, very clever of them. The whole time for the last year and a half, China has been saying that they're not proponents of the Ukraine war. They are huge proponents because it solidifies the strength of Russia in Eastern Europe. They will capture Ukraine eventually. They will win. They will get it because Putin has made it clear there will be no end but one certainty, and that's him getting Ukraine. China has been saying, oh, no, we're not supportive of the war at all. All of a sudden, you see destroyers and carriers and naval ships of two different countries solidifying themselves under the understanding that even though they try to play in separate sandboxes, what this showed is they're in the same sandbox coming after us. It made us have to send 4 destroyers off the coast of Alaska to try to intercept what was clearly one of the biggest provocations and show of force. And the united message that it sent around the world was China and Russia is the new United States. They're the new bully on the block. They're the new landlord of the property. And that means that the BRICS is alive and well. August 22nd, 23rd in Johannesburg, South America. The BRICS will announce a number of different initiatives to destroy the United States and obviously to destroy the dollar. That in itself right there, Lou, is all what you need to know that this thing is moving forward, and it's moving forward at lightning speed.
So I have a question, and I want to push this right towards Tom. This could be perceived, conservatively speaking, as an aggressive action directed towards our country, threat to our security. What's our governmental mechanism thinking? What's our response from the FBI? We're responsible for our domestic safety.
I don't think the FBI will have any say in what's going on in the waters off Alaska. My understanding is that those ships were in international waters, and therefore they can have parades up and down and there's not much we can say or do about it. Now, what's interesting is we don't hesitate to sail warships up and down the coast off of China, in between Taiwan and China. That's no problem. So I think if somebody else does a demonstration of power, we don't like it, even though they can do it, and there's really nothing we can do about it.
So once again, Tom, and this is a really great point you brought up. This has to do with the media and the way they've decided to depict this. And I don't want to go off on the media, guys, because, this is the fly in the ointment in our country today. And a lot of people are having a hard time understanding the damage that they're causing. So basically, we shouldn't have any over concern or reaction to this. It's kind of commonly done by most nations. I think the thing that alarms Americans has to do with the optic of its proximity to our mainland, right? Although Alaska's a little detached up off that northwest quadrant of the world. But I guess at this point, we're just in a kind of sit and wait mode. Now, I want to come back to you, Christian, again now. And I want you to have a discussion with me about China's insinuation in a much broader sense, economically and in other ways in our country, both domestically and internationally. Sorry for the big question.
Yeah, it's a big question, but there's a lot of great things to add to what I said earlier and what Tom's echoing. This morning on Fox Business, with Maria Bartiromo, there was an expert. I follow this guy. If you ever follow Gordon Chang, he's pretty good about trying to decipher what exactly the moves are of President Xi. How do you take the left or the right or the middle? How do you interpret what he's doing? But here's what he said on this morning on Maria, and he said very clearly: China expert warns U.S. is on the edge of a war amid mounting challenges with adversity. So right now, it looks like China, with this move, he made it clear that we are on the edge of a war that is unprecedented. In other words, we're the closest we've ever been to any type of conflict that we ultimately got into conflict with. In other words, we're right on that. We probably have passed go. And what he said was, he goes, the joint naval operation near Alaska's southwestern coast, which led to the U.S. Navy mobilizing 4 destroyers to guide the ships away from American waters. See, right now we have an estimated 1 to 2 million Chinese men of fighting age, military type backgrounds, or sympathetic to the CCP that when asked to do it for their life, liberty, and their country of communist China would fight. And those people have been here for 25, 30 years. Because why? Families from China that have settled here, obviously it's not every one of them, but many of them have been sympathetic to the CCP. In other words, they remember their culture, their homeland, their people, and they will die for that cause. So now we have open borders, which is estimated around 25 to 30,000 Chinese nationalists. This is of the 21 to 25-year-old males that are clearly military trained, or at least have the appearance of military type demographics. And now you have one of the biggest shows of force and unity. Again, it goes back to what Biden said after this naval experience. He goes, oh, no, this was vastly exaggerated. This was no big deal, where China and Russia are clearly saying, we are here, we're coming, we're going to get Ukraine, we're going to get Taiwan, and after that, we may get the Hawaiian Islands and Alaska. Think about it. What would we do if they invaded Alaska tomorrow? What would we do? They have 200 men in the Chinese military. That became official a few weeks ago. It was announced in China that they theoretically have 200 million men that are part of the army. Now, they're not military trained. They're not ready for boots on the ground. Roughly about 25 million men and women, mostly men, in the Chinese army are boots on the ground, ready to fight right now. We've got what, 2.5 million? They've got 25. What are we going to nuke our own soil? It's not going to happen. If they were to send those troops over here today for a conventional war, I've seen, and again, this stuff is it's out there. People have posted this that are internally from the Department of Defense and different parts of Pentagon that have shown that if the Chinese invaded Hawaii, they would take it within a couple of days. If they invaded the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, they could take the entire West Coast within 6 days in a conventional war. We can't win that. We don't have any ammunition. We've got no oil. Here's the best part about China. I don't know if you saw the headlines over the weekend. But our administration had secret talks with China before the release of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve oil. They basically said, China said, release your oil. We're going to buy it from you. This is scary because that was confirmed over the weekend by multiple sources, including Fox News. Even CNN picked up a little bit of it, where we negotiated the sale of our strategic petroleum to China at a discounted price. Now we're down to levels that haven't been seen since 1984. So think about this for a second. Last week, China moved 95% of the country's entire refining capabilities, capacity to make transportation diesel, which is domestic transportation of trucks. They switched almost all of it, 95% from transportation to marine diesel. Now, the last I checked, President Xi doesn't have a big yacht that would take that many billions of gallons of diesel in a month, a quarter, or a year. But guess what? China now is making 95% of all the refined oil is being made into diesel for marine use. That's naval ships. Get it? They're planning something big, and they're planning it soon. The only time you can invade Taiwan is either in the months of October or April, because of the way the tide resides, okay? The high tide, the low tide. You need the high tide to be able to land troops or military operations on any parts of the Taiwan island, which means they're ramping up for either this October or next year's April. Either way, it's happening sooner than later. And with this aggression that was shown in Alaska, they're preparing us mentally for some type of a occupation around the Taiwan Straits or a full military operation on the island. There's a word also, I want to make sure I use my words very carefully because this is actually a lot scarier. So the Chinese, this is going back to the expert Shang, he stressed the importance of Ukraine winning the war. Okay, Ukraine's got to win the war because the big green light for Beijing and East Asia is if Russia's in control of Ukrainian territory, then Russia and China have the capacity to beat the Americans at any war. There's an understanding that Ukraine is kind of like this trophy. If Russia can succeed in taking Ukraine, it gives China the green light to basically to come to the understanding that between the two forces, united, Russia, China, and the rest of the BRICS, which, by the way, if all 60 countries that now have acknowledged some type of interest in joining the BRICS, you have an economy and a military, okay, economic-wise, that's 4 to 5 times greater in economic impact than our GDP, and military-wise, at least twice as big as our military, if not 10 times bigger, when you look at how many men are active in the Chinese Communist Party or the military there, because they can just tell all those young men, you're in the Navy, you're in the Army, you're in the infantry, you're a paratrooper, you're all this. There's no choice. So this is a demonstration of things to come.
We're going to take a quick break. Guys, if what you're hearing doesn't give you something to think about, I don't know what will. Again, I go back and remind you, you can follow more on what Christian says in relationship to a myriad of these topics at Hard Asset Management. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And I want to ask Tom Fuentes to give us a little insight on this topic as well. Stay with us, guys.
Hard Asset Management is a trusted leader in precious metals and rare coins for nearly 40 years. We have the guaranteed lowest prices, fast and easy ordering, expedited shipping, with award-winning customer service available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. CST, Monday through Friday. So protect yourself from the chaos. Invest in stability with Hard Asset Management. Call now and get your free Hard Asset Management information kit on how easy it is for you to own silver. 844-426-4653. 844-426-4653.
We're back, guys. This is Operation Truth. I'm going to ask our co-host, Tom Fuentes, to give us, provide us some additional insight. As you probably just listened to, Christian Briggs just gave us an immense amount of information regarding China and Russia's agenda, to put it to you politely. Tom, can you give us some insight from your side?
Yeah, Lou, to add to Christian's point, we have many things that China has been doing in the United States for several years. And for many years, the FBI had a program to try to track the Chinese professors students, others that might be trying to infiltrate our high-tech industries or our military industries or any of that. And they made many cases and many prosecutions against individuals from China trying to undermine our country. And that didn't get a lot of attention about 6 months ago when Joe Biden stopped that program. So we're no longer doing that. Now, right now, you have about 360,000 Chinese students on student visas in the United States. Now, if you look at all of the other countries of the world that were fearful of China, they didn't allow 360,000 students to come into their country, study in their universities, get internships in their various high-tech industries or military-related industries like we have done. So we have pretty much opened the door. Then Christian talked about the military-appearing Chinese that have come across the wide-open border, the southern border, and some across the northern border, that just walk right in, and observers are watching that and saying, these people look like young soldiers, military trained, fit and everything coming across that border. They're not refugees. They're not here to become Americans. There's something going on. And in spite of all the warnings to the president about what happens of a negative nature at the border, he refuses to close the borders. So yeah, we have left ourselves wide open to be conquered from within by China, much less an external military landing on our shores.
We're going to have to wrap it today, guys. And we didn't even get into this discussion with Tom or Christian about the apprehension of two individuals in the military supplying secrets to China. I think they were both Chinese young men, if I recall correctly. Guys, we're going to wrap. I do want to say one thing. The last episode, we were heavily involved in a discussion with the Ukraine. As you can see, sometimes these topics pop up, like this transition into digital currency and this issue or this exercise about installing chips in American citizens and people globally. I got to be honest with you guys, do whatever you want to do, outside our borders. When it starts to come inside our country, I take a whole different light on this thing. But we're going to have this continuation of this conversation with China starting the next episode. But I also want to talk about the Ukraine. And I think we just heard something interesting today about an assassination attempt from someone within the Secret Service of the Ukraine government. Guys, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you never miss an episode of Operation Truth.